Hey guys, today we're diving into that weird skin crawling feeling you get when a conversation just stops. Picture this: you're out with a friend or colleague, the chat is flowing until it isn't. Suddenly, there's silence. You glance away, fiddle with your drink, and internally scream, "Should I say something?" Your stomach tightens, your brain scrambles. You feel exposed, like you've just missed a social cue. So, before we go deeper into today's topic, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Okay, back to that silence. What's wild is how fast your body reacts to it. Silence isn't just a lack of noise. Your brain treats it like a red flag. You don't consciously decide to feel awkward. It floods in. Your brain, especially the amygdala, which monitors for danger, starts scanning. And while there's no lion in the room, your ancient wiring assumes something is off. Social rejection? Disapproval? Maybe you said the wrong thing? The brain doesn't care. It interprets ambiguity as threat. It all comes down to this: silence in a social setting triggers a survival response. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from the tribe meant you were vulnerable, isolated. That wiring hasn't evolved much. So today, when you sense a lull in conversation, your brain acts as if you're at risk of being left out or judged. Your heart rate might increase. You might smile nervously or blurt something random just to fill the gap. It's not weakness, it's design. Ever been on a first date where the conversation hit a wall? You're halfway through your meal, and suddenly, both of you run out of things to say. You pretend to check the menu again. You sip water you're not thirsty for. Your mind loops. This is awkward. Do they think I'm boring? Should I talk about my dog again? That anxious spiral? It's not about the silence. It's about what you think it means. Silence becomes a mirror, and your brain reflects your deepest insecurities onto it. This moment creates what psychologists call social uncertainty. Unlike a loud argument or laughter, which clearly communicates something, silence is ambiguous. And the human brain hates ambiguity. We're pattern-seeking machines. If we can't interpret a social pause, we assume the worst. You might believe the other person is judging you, losing interest, or waiting for you to mess up. You feel pressure to regain control. That's why silence often triggers over-explaining or awkward chuckles. The irony? The other person is probably feeling the same thing. They might also be wondering if you think they're dull or disengaged. You're both trapped in a mutual guessing game, and nobody wins unless someone just stays calm. Now let's pull it back to the brain again. Silence disrupts the rhythm of conversation, and rhythm is comforting. Conversation is like dancing. There's a tempo, a give and take. Silence? It's like someone suddenly pulls the music. You stumble, and your brain, wired for rhythm and predictability, starts shouting, "Fix this. Get back on beat." Here's the twist, though. Silence isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's neutral. It's your interpretation that adds weight. But in social settings, your interpretation tends to be harsh. Why? Because of something called negativity bias, your brain's tendency to prioritize potential threats over neutral or positive stimuli. When a conversation drops into silence, your brain doesn't think, "Oh, we're just pausing." It thinks, "Something's wrong. Say something now or risk embarrassment." Remember that group project in school where no one spoke up first? That heavy silence? That wasn't just group laziness. Everyone was doing mental gymnastics. Should I go first? Will I sound stupid? What if no one laughs at my joke? The silence became a pressure cooker. And eventually, someone, maybe you, burst in with a clumsy icebreaker just to release the tension. That's the brain's panic mechanism in motion. And let's not forget body language. During a silence, you become hyper-aware of every little cue: a glance to the side, a shifted weight. You analyze everything. Your inner dialogue goes on overdrive. But most of these cues are neutral or meaningless. You're just trying to decode something that likely has no secret code. So next time you feel awkward in a pause, remember, your brain's not broken. It's just trying to protect you. But understanding this gives you an edge. It lets you pause without panic. Because now you know, it's not the silence that's awkward. It's your brain filling in the blanks with fear. Now that you understand why your brain hits the panic button during silence, let's talk about what happens next, when you start scrambling to fill that gap. You know the feeling. You say something, anything, just to keep things moving. Maybe it's a weird fact, a forced joke, or a filler question like, "Sue, What's your favorite type of bread? It slips out before you even know what you're doing. And afterward, you replay it in your head and cringe. Why did you say that? This is the behavioral side of awkward silence, the way you instinctively jump in to smooth things over. Psychologists call this self-regulatory behavior. Basically, you're trying to fix your internal discomfort by doing something external. It's like throwing water on imaginary fire. You speak not because there's something valuable to say, but because you can't stand the silence another second. You want control back. But here's the kicker. Constantly filling the silence doesn't always make things better. In fact, it can create more awkwardness. You might start rambling, oversharing, or steering the conversation into a weird tangent that makes things even more uncomfortable. It's a common trap, and it stems from not trusting the pause. Let's take a familiar example. You're in a job interview. The hiring manager nods after you finish an answer, but doesn't speak right away. That pause stretches out. You start sweating. You worry they're unimpressed. So you jump back in, repeating yourself or adding details you didn't plan to share. You ramble. You lose focus. That silence made you second-guess yourself, even though, plot twist, it was probably just them processing your answer. This is where a little mindfulness can change everything. Silence, when you stop fearing it, becomes a tool. It gives you space. It lets the other person digest what you've said and shows that you're comfortable enough in your own skin to sit with a pause. That's powerful. Leaders do this all the time. They speak slowly, deliberately. They don't rush to fill every second with noise. Why? Because confident people don't fear silence. They own it. You can too. But it takes practice. Your instinct will always be to fill the void. You've been conditioned that way by years of small talk, rapid-fire texts, even sitcoms with no real pauses. Conversation in media is edited to feel snappy, constant. Real life doesn't work like that. In real life, people think, they hesitate, they breathe, and you're allowed to do that too. Let's bring it into a personal moment. Imagine you're talking to someone you care about. The conversation turns serious. Maybe you're opening up about something vulnerable. There's a pause after you speak. You feel the urge to soften the silence, to joke, to say, never mind, it's dumb. But what if you didn't? What if you let the pause sit? You might notice something surprising. In those spaces, connection deepens. The other person might be processing what you said. They may respond with more honesty because you didn't rush in. This is where emotional intimacy lives, not in the noise, but in the quiet understanding that neither of you needs to perform. One of the best examples of this is therapy. A good therapist uses silence on purpose. They'll let you sit with a question. They don't interrupt your thinking. At first, it feels strange, like they're waiting for a better answer. But really, they're giving you room. It's uncomfortable because you're not used to it, but it works. That's where your real thoughts rise to the surface. So how do you practice being okay with silence? Start small. Next time there's a lull in conversation, instead of panicking, just breathe. Count to 3. Make eye contact if it feels right. Let the moment land. If the other person speaks first, great. If they don't, respond mindfully instead of automatically. The goal isn't to say something clever, it's to stay present. Also, remember that not every silence is your job to fix. You're not the entertainment committee. You're not responsible for making every interaction sparkle. Sometimes, silence just means the conversation has reached a natural pause. That's okay. You're allowed to exist in that pause. And over time, you'll start to notice a shift. Silence stops feeling like a failure. It starts to feel like rest, like a breath between thoughts. And when you do speak, your words carry more weight because they're not coming from panic, but from presence. Here's a fun twist. Some of the most magnetic people you'll meet are also the most comfortable with silence. They don't chase it away. They invite it. They make you feel safe sitting in it. And that's something worth learning, not just to avoid awkwardness, but to become a better communicator overall. So next time your brain screams, say something, pause, hear the echo, then decide what really needs to be said, if anything at all. Hey, if you've ever felt weird about silence, you're not broken. You're human. It's a signal, not a flaw. Learning to sit with that discomfort is how you grow. As Lao Tzu once said, silence is a source of great strength. And the poet Rumi put it this way, listen to the silence. It has so much to say. So maybe the next time you feel that awkward pause rising up, just listen.